Hello, friends, and happy Friday. Thank you so much for joining me, and welcome to Level Up Live. Let's get started.
Welcome to Level Up with Winnie Sun. Award-winning financial pro. Get ready. Level Up with Winnie Sun.
Hello, friends. Happy Friday. Thank you so much for joining me as we are about to cap up this week. I know many of you were expecting that I was going to come here live with Greg Nibbler for In the Loop. Unfortunately, my good friend Greg is dealing with some internet issues. We've all been there. So, unfortunately, he can't join us. But you know what? We've got so much to talk about. I want to make sure and welcome you to Level Up Live. For those of you who are brand new to the show, hello, I'm Winnie, longtime financial pro, CNBC council member, Forbes contributor, and of course, host of this show and In the Loop, which is usually on Fridays. But for those of you who are brand new to the show, welcome. We are streaming here live on many different social media platforms. So don't be shy. Jump in, say hello, let me know how you're doing. Of course, feel free to come in with comments. That's what's crazy fun about doing a live show is we get to see that interaction. It's kind of like back in the day, I used to work on a television show. Many of you might remember a TV show called America's Funniest Home Videos. And back then, that was the audience interaction, right? They would be able to vote and stuff. But now you actually get to comment and tell me how you're feeling live. So this is really fun. Okay, let's let you know how the market's doing currently. Currently, the Dow is up 414 points. We like the sound of that. The Nasdaq's up about 216 points approximately, and the S&P 500 is about 58 points in the positive as well. And that's good news because if you know that we've actually had like the worst session since April yesterday, so we're glad to see the S&P here bouncing back. I know some of the wholesale inflation data came back a little hotter than expected, but overall we are still optimistic that the Federal Reserve hopefully will give us a much needed rate cut in September. I say much needed, but I think for some people it might not be much needed. So, take that with a grain of salt. Perhaps you're in the camp of we don't need rate cuts yet. Some of you might be saying we really need a rate cut soon. But here's what we will tell you. I want to kind of come back a little bit and talk to you about some of the inflation data that came out in June. Now, this was shared by my friend Greg at CNBC, talking about the Consumer Price Index and the CPI, which rose by 3% last month compared to the year prior, where it was down 3.3% in May. Now, this is sort of a significant decline from the over 9% peak during the beginning of the pandemic in 2022. Now, the inflation rate now is nearing the Federal Reserve's target, which is the good news. So they're saying this does now give us a potential of a rate cut this year in September and possibly later or earlier. But Fed Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell has said that they definitely want to make sure that they don't cut rates too quickly or too slowly because that could affect the economy as well. So we're just really paying attention to it. But it does feel like we're getting to a point where a lot of the changes that have been made are actually making an impact on our economy. So that's a good thing. So you might be saying, well, I don't really know what they're talking about because in my mind, things are still way too expensive. If you feel that way, you're definitely not alone. I feel that way as well. But let's talk about some of the numbers. Some of the areas where prices seem to be quieting down a little bit or cooling down, if you will, is one area is actually in gasoline prices. Now, if you drive an electric vehicle like I do, you may not be experiencing this on a day to day. But yes, gas prices have actually been falling. In fact, 3.8% last month relative to May. And overall, gas prices are down 2.5% since last June. So that's a good thing. Now, food prices, for many of you who continue to buy groceries, I don't know if you've seen this yet, but prices are still rising, but just not as much. So they're saying food prices for those of you who shop for home have risen about 1.1% since last June. That does provide a little bit of relief for those of us still shopping for groceries. But of course, some of that You may have seen many of the retailers are now doing promotions and even price cuts to kind of help with that process as well. Now, one area that is a significant factor of core consumer price index inflation is, of course, the cost of inflation. Now, shelter inflation, which is like housing, right, rental, things like the monthly increase is 2.2%. Last month, which is the smallest since it's been since August of 2021. So that's a really good sign. So, despite that, there are still areas that are just way too heated. In one area, especially if you drive a car, you have experienced an increase in the cost of car insurance. This is not good. 19.5%. Yikes. And medical care, of course, continues to be expensive, rising at 3.3% since last June. So both areas really expensive. If you drive a car and you're seeing your car insurance continue to go up higher, let me just say this is not a bad time to do a little shopping comparison to see if perhaps you can find a lower rate for your car insurance. Don't forget, there's a lot of like different ways to buy car insurance. You could take a look at club stores like Costco and Sam's Club, and there's different car memberships. You can even take a look at if you're part of any, alumni groups or even certain trade associations and see if there's any member discounts that you might be able to take advantage of. But you definitely want to shop around and not only shop for best price, but also to have the right amount of coverage in case of an accident. Just make sure that you do your due diligence. Take your time. I would devote about like almost like a couple days during a week just to make sure you get this, get it through. And if you have somebody in your household, like a partner or spouse, maybe, divide and conquer. That's what I would say. But yes, we're definitely seeing some cooling off, and that continues, especially also in the area of labor. So, in terms, a lot of companies are starting layoffs now. We heard of some news coming from Intuit this week, amongst many other companies. A lot of tech companies are actually making some changes. They're letting go employees. Now they're going all in AI and looking for talent in that area. Yeah. So let's continue. This is a big one. And I really want to see your thoughts on this. I think many of you joining me today, we want to talk about Elon Musk, of course. And Elon Musk, I guess, has been accused of violating through the process of X, which used to be known as Twitter, digital content rules as it pertains to the EU, the European Union. And this was shared on CNBC by April Roche, talking about the European Commission claims that Elon's social media huge platform, X, which we are streaming on live right now, has violated, they say, several aspects of their DSA, or their Digital Services Act. They said that Twitter or X has used dark patterns, which they say are deceptive tactics to push different, tweeters or Xer users towards certain actions, and that they've really failed to ensure that advertising transparency is a thing. In fact, they're saying that, that blue check mark that you see next to my name, which I actually had prior at Twitter, so was officially certified back then. But now, because the blue check mark doesn't mean as much, because unlike for verified accounts, now anyone who subscribes and is willing to pay will now get a blue check mark, which they say does deceive users, and that is a bad thing. And so the EU is not happy about that. And the Commission also states that the platform hinders researchers' access to public data, which is also a DSA requirement. And they're saying that if these findings are confirmed, that X would face a fine of, get this, up to 6% of its global annual revenue. This is a huge amount of money. No joke. This is so much money. So Elon is claiming that the EU offered X an illegal secret deal. A legal secret deal. It just sounds really fishy. To avoid fines by censoring speech, which he says that X had rejected. And that the EU is also now, on their part, investigating other tech companies, such as, Meta and TikTok and even AliExpress for other issues that they say they're concerned about. So the EU is continuing to enforce strict regulations on major tech companies just to ensure compliance with their DSA and to protect users' rights. And that I think is important because not only if you are joining us from the EU or European Union, or if you're on this side of the pond in the United States, we know that these actions don't just reside in one country, one state, one demo, right? They will trend to other areas. And this is good. I think it's important that governments have some say and some regulatory just to make sure that uh, everybody plays fair. So let me know how you feel about that. Maybe you don't agree with what the EU is doing, and that's okay. Share your comments below. Maybe you agree. Share your comments below. Or maybe you think it needs to be something in the middle. I do think that we have to be careful about too much regulation, right? Because that could slow down growth, which we don't want. But on the other hand, we know that not all new developments and new technology, that nothing is always just in a vacuum, and it's good to have challenging forms of opinion sometimes, and that is healthy. And so I think in that respect, I think it's good for the two groups to sort of figure out what would be a happy medium in between. All right, speaking of happy medium, we need to talk about this. This is not so much a happy story, but it's something that I think is more of a reality story. And this is something that's happening here in California. This has been shared on Newsweek this week, talking about how here in the state of California, and I think many parts of the nation, we're seeing a lot of layoffs. In fact, many of these companies are doing very large layoffs in the thousands plus numbers, because now a lot of companies are eyeing on transitioning more to AI. And therefore, some of the people that they've hired are no longer of value enough to keep them on payroll. So one company in particular here in California is called Intuit, which is the parent company of TurboTax, Credit Karma, Mailchimp. Well, they're laying off 1,800 employees. This is about 10% of their workforce, as they say they're adapting to the AI revolution. Now, about 600 of those employees will come from California, and then and other parts, of course, as well. But that's just the beginning. So we're also seeing a lot of companies now moving of these jobs away from different areas. So in their particular case, with Intuit's case, they're saying some of these employees, or a lot of the employees that they're letting go, were employees that maybe weren't meeting certain performance expectations, and then others are just maybe being able to reallocate resources, and executive roles are also being reduced. So, a lot of these companies are now looking to hire more people, in particularly in technology and engineering, because they do know that with AI, those are the people that they really need on board. So, despite all this, more than 106,000 tech employees now have lost their jobs in this year alone up until June in 2024. Now, there are a lot of companies, including Google, Amazon, Zoom, Discord. If you're looking to hopefully land a job in one of these companies, it probably makes sense to spend a little time devoting to the area of AI, because it does look like this is something that companies are looking to retain talent for. The tech sector does continue to adjust post pandemic hiring sprees. Of course, these ongoing layoffs really just show that sustainable growth strategies are very, very important to these business. They want to be ahead of the curve and they want to fall behind, so they're making these changes now. And you might say, like, well, AI has been around for quite a bit. Well, I think that many companies still see this as a very, very early phase of AI. So companies are taking a look, what's up ahead, and they're making these changes now. So yes, all right, let's continue. This is a story that I'm if you haven't heard of this, this is one that made me pause. Now, I'm not saying this is a good thing or a bad thing. I certainly wouldn't do that, but I want to share this because this is business news, right? Get this, there's a new trend in some parts of the United States. Get this. vending machines are being added to grocery stores. This was shared on NPR by Rachel Treisman this week. In fact, get this, vending machines and grocery stores, not a new thing. But how about grocery stores that are ammunition vending machines? That's right. These vending machines will be selling ammunition introduced in grocery stores in multiple states, including Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, and they plan to expand. Yes. So American Rounds LLC argues that these machines actually provide a safer method to sell ammunition compared to online and on shelf sales, reducing theft and illegal purchases by minors. Now, these vending machines, they weigh about 2,000 pounds. They're heavily secure, they say, and they do require ID, and they also require facial recognition scans to verify the buyer's age and identity. But what do you think about this? This you got to have an opinion on. I want to hear from you. I see many of you joining me live today. How do you feel about this business venture? We're all for side hustles, we're all for new business. This one, I want to hear from you. That this one's got to give you pause, right? So we know that gun violence prevention experts are very, very much concerned about the increased accessibility of getting their hands on ammunition. And of course, this makes it that more accessible. And they're worried that this could heighten gun violence. There's also concerns about machines selling to individuals who are prohibited from owning firearms. This is one area where I do think this is sort of that discussion of technology versus, human labor that kind of comes into play. Do you want a human being between the transaction or purchase between ammunition and that purchase and another person, another buyer? Obviously we know that like online sales, that may not include a human being, but how do you feel about that? That's really just a sort of general question. So although these vending machines don't conduct background checks, they say they do comply with federal, state, and local laws. But some experts question, of course, the security and, of course, the hacking of these machines as well. Um, I think that's a really valuable concern. I'm concerned about that too. But as a parent, I don't know how I feel about that. You know, I'll say this. I am glad it's not here in California. That's what I'll say. But nonetheless, let me know your thoughts on that. Some consumers support the convenience. They think this is great. It'll be easy for us to get, the things that we need. But gun control advocates are obviously very, very worried. And this is a hot topic. But this, I don't know if this should be bigger. But yeah, this company, American Rounds, does plan to expand their offerings to include hunting licenses and also NRA memberships. And they're saying that incorporating background checks could enhance safety and responsible gun ownership. Um, yeah. So next time at supermarket in one of these states, if you see one of these things, let me know what your thoughts on it. Let me know if you've ever used one of these, if you intend to use one of these. What are your thoughts? As a gun owner, how do you feel about that? My husband's from Texas. He has very strong opinions on that, which, it's interest. This is an interesting topic. But segueing next one, let's go ahead and have a nice, fun Friday topic to end our day here. And I want to share with you that, well, National French Fry Day is here. That's right. So, yeah, today is National French Fry Day. And what that means is many, many businesses are offering discounted or free French fries. In fact, McDonald's, is giving out free medium fries as long as you spend $1 to purchase every Friday through December 27th, 2024, in fact, plus any size fries free with no purchase on July 13th, as long as you use their app. So McDonald's is doing a French fry. I know some people who love McDonald's French fries, so that's something that they probably will really enjoy. Now Burger King is going to do something similar. They have something called their Royal Perks members, which again probably is their membership program, which I know a lot of these membership programs are free. They get free fries with $1 purchase every Friday for the rest until the rest of the year as well. Plus, you get double rewards from today to the 14th. And then Taco Bell is also doing something. I see KFC is doing something as well. KFC is doing free fries with any online purchase today. And then 50% off chicken sandwiches through August 25th. Wendy's is doing something. Arby's is doing something. Well, basically, the gist is I guess wherever you buy your french fries, there's a good chance, good likelihood that you're going to get free french fries if you buy something or around this period of time. So if you're in like you have a craving for french fries, definitely maybe do a quick Google search and see if you're going to get free french fries, and that way you can plan your order ahead of time, which is never a bad thing, right? One of the best ways to save when you're eating out is to plan ahead of time and figure out what you want, and that way you don't do impulse ordering, which is definitely a thing. So thank you so much, my friends, for joining me. And I hope that you have an amazing Friday. Currently, let's segue back to the market. Market's currently Dow up 486 points. We like the sound of that. Nasdaq's currently up 264 points. The S&P 500 is currently up 69 points as well. Market's doing very, very well. Hopefully, it continues to hold. The market won't be closing for a few more hours here, but nonetheless, I hope that you have a beautiful weekend. I look forward to seeing you again next week as we go live. But thank you so much for being here and supporting this show. And for those of you who've been sharing, I see you, I appreciate you, and I'll definitely give you lots of thanks again next week. But for those of you who, are here and have any questions, do know that we are streaming here live. And then to check out on past episodes of Level Up Live, definitely check out NASDAQ and many other streaming platforms, including LG and let's see, Samsung, and I don't know, whatever streaming platform that you're with, Hulu, probably you're going to find us there. But thank you so much, my friends, and be well. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye now.